Hey guys, welcome back to Snake River Fly. We're gonna go do a little tying demo for you today. Hope everybody's alive and well out there, doing good. Today's fly is gonna be a tribute, a knockoff, if you will, to our friends down at Fly Fish Food. Uncle Cheech, Curtis, the gang down that way do some awesome stuff. If you're in Orem, stop by and check out their rad shop. A little while back, Uncle Cheech busted out the Sculpin toad. So we had a customer come in and said, man, if you can tie some of those for us, it would be awesome. And so we did, and we realized that Uncle Cheech, you were a master, man, because tying that toad style bug is pretty tough. I mean, we made them work, but when I got done tying those, I decided, man, there's got to be a better way or an easier way for us to tie that. So we're going with the Sculpin Toad 2.0. Tribute to you boys at Fly Fish Food. Ours is going to utilize some Techno Bunny from Snake River Fly. So without further ado, let's go ahead and bust this thing out. So just started out with the number 2 saltwater standard O'Shaughnessy hook. This one is, I believe, an Eagle Claw that we sell here in the shop. It's number 2. I've just put a good thread base down. And on their bug, they use some crystal flash for the tail. On ours, of course, we're going to put a little crinkles on it, man. So some flash at the back end. This is a trigger point. I'm just going to take a small point, or a small clump of gold UV crinkles on. And we're going to tie that in midpoint. A great way to utilize crinkles on materials, to tie it in midway. Get it secured, and then we're just going to fold the rest of that back. It's a great way to hollow tie it and to also make sure that it's going to stay there for the long haul. A lot of trout teeth and whatnot are going to get tangled in with that, and that's not going to pull out because we folded that in. So just a trigger point in the back. I'm going to cut it off basically shank length. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take a little bit of our coated wire that we're going to use to do our bead belly on this. I'm just going to go ahead and tie this in right on top of the shank and secure it. Good thread base on this. Little minor bump right there will clear up. Now we've got our wire tied in, and now we're going to take some of our ginger Techno Bunny. If you haven't tried this stuff yet, we have it on the site and in shop. Super cool stuff. Wraps really well, holds its form really well, a lot easier to work with than your standard zonker strips. What I've done is I've taken about 6-7 inches of this and I've just trimmed a little bit off to give me a nice clean tie-in. I'm just going to tie that in right in front of the crinkles on and over that wire, and get it secure. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to advance my thread forward about 3/4 of the way up the shank. I want to make sure that I stop just a little bit back here. After we tie in our rabbit strip on this one, we are going to do a little bit more in the front to give it that nice cool sculpin head. With the Techno Bunny, I'm just going to wrap it tight. And as I advance the material forward, I'm going to do a little bit of preening, a little bit of combing back. You can see the frosted tips on this Techno Bunny really give it a cool molted look. A lot of the sculpins that we have here in Power County area live in streams and still waters that have some silted bottom, and we do tend to get a lot of tan sculpins. It's a great color to choose around here. Of course, you could tie this in any of our Techno Bunny colors. And I've got it up to that 3/4 point. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to secure this with a few good thread wraps. Hold it back, get a few good wraps in front. Now, typically if I'm tying these, or so far as we've been tying these, I'll leave this Techno Bunny on here and then I'll just go ahead and use that to continue on. But for the video purpose, I'm going to clip this clean just so you can see kind of what we got going on. If you want, you can do a little combing. It's just a standard wire brush. Have these in the shop. You can find them about anywhere. Just clean that Techno bunny up. Take and I'll do a little part right down the middle with my brush. I'm going to turn this so you can see kind of how we've parted the bottom of the Techno bunny body. So now we're going to take a little bit of 3.5, 4.0 tungsten gold colored bead, and we're going to slide those onto our coated wire. Really great idea Uncle Cheech came up with this bug. I've fished a few of them that I've tied myself, both the original Sculpin toad as well as the Techno bunny Sculpin toad 2.0. These things swim really, really nice. Great job, Cheech. I mean, awesome bug. Great idea. I'm just going to fold that wire with the beads on it forward and put some good secure wraps in here. I'm using a 210 or a 140 Semper fly. Actually, I think it's a 140 Semper. Wax thread on here. Just building a good base. If you wanted to add a little rattle effect to this, you could loosen that loop on the wire. I have this one pulled pretty tight. They're still going to move on the bottom of the fly, but if I wanted this to maybe have a little rattle effect to it, a little more noise for maybe some smallies and that kind of stuff, I'd leave this wire loop a little looser. Okay, so we've got our wire tied in, have it secured. I'm going to come in and trim that. That'll go for the next one. Now I'll just kind of put some thread wraps down to take care of that little rough point so it doesn't cut my thread. And we've got our bug prepped pretty well there. And now what we're going to do is we're going to invert this hook. What we're going to do is we're going to take some magnum rabbit strips, ginger. These are particular ones are tan, but I've got a ginger sitting here on my bench. And I've already cut this and trimmed the back of it at a slight little V. And what I'm looking for is I'm looking for a length basically overall twice the length of the whole bug, or 1.5 times. And what I like to do is I'm going to flip this up and I'm going to look at where I want to tie that in. Here, I'll do it on this side. And I'll use a Sharpie and I'll put a little dot where I want to poke my hook through there. And I'll just pre-do this to a half a dozen bugs or half a dozen strips of the rabbit strip, and that way I know where to thread this right through. I'm just going to put it right through on the hook point, similar to what Brandon does on the snoogle. Actually identical to what Brandon does on the snoogle. And pop that on, and now we're going to put the hook back into our Renzetti Traveler. Lock it down. And now what we're going to do is we're going to pull this forward, and you can either take and wet your fingers a little bit and clear some of this stuff out of the way. I don't like really clearing it all out of the way. I think it looks a little bit better if I leave a little bit in there to tie down. You know, the Sculpins have a pretty full face on them. And I'm going to preen that so it's nice and clean. And now I'm going to do a loose wrap right in front of my right hand fingernail. Center it. I haven't pulled any tension yet. Get it where I want it. I'll do another loose wrap right in the same spot. And now, just like on foam, we're going to pull it tight now. Anytime you want to lock something on the top of a hook shank, if you'll do 2 loose wraps and then pull your tension, that'll keep those materials from rotating and spinning around. A couple more in there, just for good measure. And now I feel pretty comfortable trimming that leather off. I'll do a few wraps right in front. This will kind of prop the leather away from the hook shank. give me a little pinch in there and make sure that material is locked in pretty well. So if you think you're a little too close to the hook eye, you can use your thumbnail on your index. Just going to do a little push back. That pushes everything backwards. And now I can tie the remaining wraps in here. Some of that loose stuff, clean it up. Now just work back on that rabbit. And that gives us a real nice full face on that rabbit. Okie doke. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that leftover Techno bunny, preen it just a little bit right here in front. I'm just going to clean it out the front like that. Give it a little clip, get some of that loose frosted fibers off. And I've just given myself a little tag to tie it in. I'm going to tie that in right in front of my rabbit wing or fin. Clean up all the loose stuff. Some nice thread wraps. There we go. And now we're going to do a couple more wraps of the Techno bunny right here in front of our zonker strip. Preening as we go. There's one. There's two. And we probably get three in here, it looks like. Whoops. Guess you got to tighten your vise just a little bit. There's three right up to the front. Clean everything out of the way. Okay, and then we're just going to secure that Techno bunny. A few good wraps right in front. Give her a little trim. Loving it. Let's go ahead and get this tied off. Super cool idea by Cheech. The belly swims, you know, having that weight down on the belly just levels this fly out so you don't get a lot of, you know, head bobbing up and down, not necessarily that jig effect. But if you quit stripping this and let her settle, she settles down in really natural, especially in this one. Last weekend up on the snake, and oops, got a little bleeder. It's a good sharp hook. And got definitely a little bleeder on the snake, and watch this thing swim through some bigger boulders, some, you know, bigger gravel, you know, softball size stuff, and it pops and parks itself really nice with the sink tip in there. So just going to do a little combing on the front of this. Gives us a real good looking lychee, or excuse me, gives us a real great looking Sculpin head, Sculpin effect. It's going to be really soft, nice color to it. And what Cheech has done, I think if you wanted to, you could definitely put some barbell eyes in here, but I think it's a great idea. Cheech just did some UV eyes on here. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put my finger underneath, and that way I can push down and get a good dot on my Techno bunny for that eye. And same thing over here, keep my finger up underneath. That way I can push down. Sculpin tend to have eyes that are facing up. And if you look at a real Sculpin, you know, unlike a lot of bait fish and minnows, they don't have typical, you know, iris and pupil. It's just going to look like a little black pearl, that little black eye. And I think Cheech nailed it on the nose with his UV black spot here. You know, a lot of times here at the shop, instead of using, you know, we love Loon products, we use them all the time, but instead of using, you know, necessarily like a thin or a thick or a flow, you know, a lot of times we'll just grab, you know, some UV knot sense or even the wader repair. And that'll give us the same effect that we're looking for. Whoa, got a little blow dryer effect going on that one. And just going to put a dot over that black spot. Unfortunately, I'm a little bit better with thread and scissors than I am with glue, as everybody knows. I've been known to glue myself to myself, glue myself to flies. My old fifth wheel that I guided out of for years, the table in that thing looks like a boulder of those watermelon stones that you see down from the Bonneville flood. The whole table has just got like ink marks and all sorts of, you know, glue, UV glue, super glue bumps all over it. Definitely not the best fly gluer out there. So you can see what I've done is I've just dropped those two spots on there, just like Cheech did. Now we're gonna bust out our Assassin rechargeable super killer laser that we have on the site. This one even is so potent that you gotta turn it on and off, has a lock. And you could let those settle in a little bit, but for practical purposes, I'm just gonna hit them. This thing's pretty bright. You can adjust the beam on it as well. I think we have it for $39.99 on the site. Comes with the battery, comes with the charger. Probably blind you. Sorry. Hope nobody dies in the making of this fly in this video. And I'm just gonna hit those with the UV. Make sure we've got her all dialed up. But super cool idea by Cheech and the guys at Fly Fish Food. We really like it. You know, we've tweaked it, you know, of our own variation. Don't worry about the little bit of black on the bottom. But our knockoff of Fly Fish Food's Sculpin Toad. So Sculpin Toad 2.0. This one is the Techno Bunny Sculpin Toad 2.0. Thanks a bunch.